No matter what I do, I'm stuck in the same loop. Work, pay bills, save a little, repeat. I just don't see how people actually get rich without being born into it.
That's because most people follow a script that's designed to keep them in that loop. I used to think the same way until I read The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. It completely flipped my perspective on wealth and success.
What's so different about it? Isn't wealth just about making more money and saving wisely?
That's exactly the problem. We're taught that the path to wealth is working a job, saving for decades, and hoping that by the time we're old, we'll have enough to enjoy life. DeMarco calls this the slow lane.
That's how everyone says it works, right? Get a degree, get a good job, work your way up, save, invest in long-term plans.
Yeah, and that's why most people never actually become wealthy. Think about it. How many people do you know who followed that plan and ended up truly rich? Not just comfortable, but actually wealthy.
Now that you mention it, not many. Most people I know are either barely keeping up or just doing okay.
Exactly. That's because the slow lane is based on linear income. You trade time for money, and the amount you can earn is capped by how many hours you work. Even high-paying jobs don't guarantee wealth because they still rely on time. You work, you get paid. You stop working, the money stops.
So what's the alternative?
The fast lane. Instead of working for money, you create systems that generate money for you. Things that scale without being tied to your hours. Business, real estate, digital products, software. Anything that allows you to make money even when you're not actively working.
That sounds great, but isn't that just the same old start a business advice?
Not exactly. The key difference is control and scale. Most people start businesses that trap them, like opening a small shop where they have to be there every day. That's not fast lane, that's just owning your own job. The real fast lane is about leveraging systems that grow beyond you.
All right, but how do you even get started? I don't have a groundbreaking idea or a ton of money to invest.
That's another myth people believe, that you need $1 million idea or huge capital. DeMarco himself started with a simple online business that provided value. The key is to solve a problem at scale. The more people your solution helps, the wealthier you become.
So it's about finding something people need and making it available to as many as possible?
Exactly, and that's where the sense framework comes in. But before we get into that, you need to truly understand why the slow lane is a dead end, because without that realization, most people never commit to escaping it.
Okay, so you're saying the slow lane doesn't work, but it's what everyone follows. If it were truly broken, wouldn't more people realize it?
You'd think so, but the slow lane is designed to feel safe. That's why people stick to it. It promises security, a steady paycheck, and a comfortable retirement, eventually. The problem is, it's a lie.
A lie? That's a strong word. What do you mean?
Look around. How many people who followed the traditional path, work a job, save, invest in long-term plans, actually retire wealthy and enjoy their life while they're young? Most people end up working for decades, saving just enough to get by in retirement, and hoping they don't outlive their money.
But isn't that just life? You work hard and eventually you get to relax.
That's the illusion. The slow lane works if everything goes perfectly. No job loss, no market crashes, no medical emergencies. But how often does life go perfectly?
Rarely. Something always comes up. Unexpected expenses, layoffs, inflation.
Exactly. And even if nothing goes wrong, the math itself is broken. The slow lane assumes that you can save enough over time to retire comfortably, but it ignores three big problems. Time is against you. You only have so many working years. Saving a small percentage of your paycheck and waiting 40 years means you'll only be wealthy when you're too old to enjoy it. Inflation eats your money. The value of money drops over time. Even if you save $1 million, by the time you retire, that might not be enough. You have no control. You rely on a job, an employer, the stock market, and economic conditions, all of which are out of your hands.
But isn't investing supposed to make up for that? Everyone says compound interest is the key.
Compound interest is powerful, but it's slow. That's why it's called the slow lane. Even with aggressive saving, you might only have real wealth at 60 or 70 after sacrificing the best years of your life. DeMarco calls it hope-based wealth. You hope the market performs well. You hope you don't lose your job. You hope you'll have enough. Hope is not a strategy.
So what's the alternative? Just gamble on a business and hope it takes off?
No, that's not it either. The fast lane isn't about gambling. It's about creating wealth instead of waiting for it. The difference is control. Instead of relying on an employer or the market, you build something that generates income and scales beyond your time.
All right, but that still sounds vague. How do you actually do that?
That's where the sense framework comes in. Control, entry, need, time, and scale. It's the blueprint for escaping the slow lane and getting onto the fast lane. But before we jump into that, let's break down what real wealth actually means. All right, before we dive into the sense framework, let's first define what real wealth actually means. Because if you don't know what you're aiming for, you might end up chasing the wrong things.
Isn't wealth just having a lot of money?
That's what most people think. But real wealth is more than just a number in your bank account. It's a combination of three things: money, time, and mobility.
Mobility? I get the money and time part, but what does mobility have to do with it?
Mobility means freedom, the ability to live life on your terms. What's the point of having millions if you're stuck working 80-hour weeks with no time to enjoy it? Or if you have money but can't leave a job because you're tied down by responsibilities? True wealth means having enough money to do what you want, the time to enjoy it, and the freedom to move, travel, and make choices without being restricted.
That makes sense. I know people who make a lot but have no time, and they're just as stressed as those who are struggling financially.
Exactly. That's why just earning more at a job isn't enough. If your income depends entirely on your time, you're still trapped. The real goal is financial independence, making money in a way that doesn't require constant effort.
And that's where the fast lane comes in?
Right. The fast lane isn't just about making money faster. It's about building something that works for you. That's where the sense framework comes in.
Okay, let's break it down. What's sense?
It stands for control, entry, need, time, and scale. These 5 principles determine whether a business or income source has fast lane potential. Let's start with control.
Sounds important, but what does it actually mean?
Control is about owning your income. If someone else controls your paycheck, an employer, a company, a boss, you're not in the fast lane. You can be fired, replaced, or have your salary cut at any time.
So working for yourself is the only way?
Not necessarily. The key is ownership. Even in business, if someone else controls your revenue, like a single supplier, a single big client, or an algorithm, then you're still vulnerable. Fast laners own their income streams.
That's a big shift in thinking. Most people rely on jobs, and even business owners often depend on a few big clients.
Exactly. That's why most people remain financially insecure, even if they make good money. Real control means your income isn't at the mercy of someone else's decisions.
All right, so what's next?
The second principle, entry, or rather, barriers to entry.
Like how hard it is to get into a business?
Yes. If anyone can do it easily, competition will flood in and profits disappear. Think of common side hustles, freelancing, dropshipping, selling handmade crafts. Anyone can start those in a day, so they become oversaturated and profits shrink.
So the best opportunities are the ones with high barriers?
Not necessarily high, but meaningful. You want a business where not everyone can just jump in overnight, something that takes skill, knowledge, or investment. Otherwise, you'll always be fighting for scraps.
Got it. What's next?
Need. If there's no demand for what you're offering, it doesn't matter how good your business is.
So this is about solving real problems?
Exactly. Fast-lane businesses don't start with, how can I make money? They start with, what problem can I solve for a lot of people? The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity.
That makes sense. I've seen people try to sell random products that no one really needs and they struggle.
Right. A business with no real demand is like trying to push a boulder uphill. A business that fulfills a strong need is like rolling downhill with momentum.
Okay, we've covered control, entry, and need. What about time?
This is a big one. If your income is tied directly to your time, you're not in the fast lane.
So passive income?
Kind of, but not in the way most people think. True fast lane businesses aren't about working less right away. They're about building systems, things that generate money even when you're not actively working.
Give me an example.
Think of an author. They put in effort to write a book once, but if it sells well, they keep earning for years. Or a business owner who builds an automated system like an e-commerce store that runs without them constantly managing it.
So the goal is to create assets that keep paying you?
Exactly. If you're trading time for money forever, you're in the slow lane, no matter how high your income.
Makes sense. So what's the last part, scale?
Scale determines how big your business can grow. If you cut hair for a living, there's a limit to how many clients you can serve. But if you own a software company, your product can reach millions without increasing your workload.
So scalable businesses are the real wealth builders?
Exactly. The best businesses aren't just profitable. They can grow exponentially without needing more of your time.
All right, I'm starting to see the full picture now. The fast lane isn't just about working harder. It's about working smarter and building something that runs without you.
Exactly. Most people spend their whole lives trading time for money. The fast lane is about breaking that cycle and creating something that builds wealth beyond your personal effort.
So where do I start?
You start by shifting your mindset. Stop thinking like an employee or a small business owner. Start thinking like a creator, an investor, a problem solver. The more people you help at scale, the wealthier you become.
This is definitely making me rethink everything. I need to figure out how I can apply this.
That's the first step, awareness. Now let's talk about how to actually put this into action.
All right, so I get the sense framework now. Control, entry, need, time, and scale. But how do I actually apply this?
Good question. Knowing the framework is one thing, but using it is where the real change happens. First, you need to analyze where you are right now. What's your current income source?
Well, I have my job, which obviously fails the control and time test since I don't own my income. And I'm trading hours for money.
Right. So the first step is figuring out how to transition from that. It doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow, but it does mean building something on the side that fits the sense framework.
Like what? Do I just pick a random business idea?
No, that's a mistake a lot of people make. Instead of chasing trends, you should start by looking at your own skills, knowledge, and interests. What problems can you solve that others would pay for?
I guess I've always been good at analyzing data and spotting patterns.
That's a great starting point. Can you think of industries where that skill is valuable?
Probably finance, marketing, maybe even tech.
Exactly. Now, let's apply sense. Do any of those fields give you control over your income?
If I freelance or start a business, then yes.
Right. And what about entry? Are these fields easy for everyone to jump into?
Not really. You need some level of expertise, so there's at least some barrier.
Good. Now do businesses need data analysis?
Absolutely. Every company that makes decisions based on data needs good analysis.
Perfect. Now, time and scale. Can you make money without constantly trading time for it?
If I create tools, courses, or software that automate data analysis, then yes.
Exactly. That's how you turn a skill into a fast lane business. Instead of selling your time, you create something scalable.
Okay, so the key is to build something once that keeps generating value?
That's it. Now the next step is execution. What can you create that solves a problem, is scalable, and doesn't rely on you trading time forever?
Maybe a tool that helps small businesses analyze their customer data without needing a data expert.
Now you're thinking like a fast laner. You validate the idea, build the system, and scale it. That's how you escape the slow lane for good.
This is actually starting to feel possible.
That's because it is. Most people just don't realize it because they're stuck in the employee mindset. Once you break out of that, everything changes.
All right, so I need to create something scalable that solves a real problem. But how do I actually start? I mean, I get the theory, but the execution part feels overwhelming.
That's normal. Most people get stuck at the start because they overcomplicate things. The key is to simplify. Break it down into small, clear steps.
So what's step one?
Step one is validation. You don't want to spend months or years building something only to find out no one wants it.
Makes sense. How do I validate my idea?
The easiest way is to test demand before fully committing. Talk to potential users. See if they actually struggle with the problem you're solving. If you can, create a minimal version of your solution and see if people are willing to pay for it.
A minimal version? You mean like a prototype?
Exactly. You don't need a perfect product on day one. You need something small that proves people will pay for the value you offer. If you're making a software tool, for example, you could start with a simple version, or even just a landing page to gauge interest.
So instead of spending months building something, I test if people actually want it first?
Exactly. That's where most people go wrong. They spend all their time building and then struggle to sell it. A smarter way is to confirm demand early and then refine as you go.
Got it. But let's say I validate the idea, what's next?
Then comes execution. This is where you focus on building and scaling. And the best way to approach this is to think in terms of systems, not just hard work.
Systems.
Yeah. A lot of people assume wealth comes from working harder, but real wealth comes from building systems that work for you.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say your business is selling a digital product. Instead of manually handling every sale, you set up an automated process. Ads bring traffic, traffic leads to a sales page, and customers automatically receive the product after purchase. Once the system is set, it keeps working, whether you're online or not.
So instead of constantly chasing sales, you set up a system that does it for you?
Exactly. And the best part? Systems can scale. Unlike a job where you can only work so many hours, a system can reach thousands or millions of people without extra effort.
This actually makes so much sense. But what if I don't know how to build these systems?
That's the beauty of today's world. You don't have to know everything. You can either learn the basics or hire others to build parts of it for you. The key is to focus on what moves the needle the most, getting your first customers and refining your system.
So validate, build, and then automate.
Exactly. And once your system is working, you scale it up. That's when you truly break free from the slow lane.
All right, let's say I've done all this. I've built something, automated it, and now I have financial freedom. What's next?
Now you shift from making money to keeping and growing it. A lot of people make millions but lose it because they don't know how to manage wealth.
So what's the right way to handle it?
3 things: protect, invest, and expand. Protect. You don't just leave money sitting in a bank account. You set up structures like trusts, legal protections, and diversification so you don't lose it to bad investments, lawsuits, or unexpected risks. Invest. Your money should work for you. That means putting it into assets that generate more money, real estate, businesses, index funds, or anything with strong long-term potential. Expand. Wealth isn't just about maintaining, it's about growing. The goal is to keep multiplying your income streams so you never rely on just one.
Makes sense, but how do I avoid the trap of losing it all?
By thinking like the ultra-wealthy. They don't take dumb risks. They focus on asymmetric returns, investments where the upside is huge but the downside is limited. They also avoid lifestyle inflation. Just because you have millions doesn't mean you need to spend like crazy.
So it's about staying smart even after you make it.
Exactly. The real game isn't just getting rich, it's staying rich and keeping control over your time forever. That's the final step. So, here's the big takeaway. Wealth isn't about working harder or waiting decades for a payoff. It's about shifting your mindset, taking control, and building something that can grow beyond you. The Millionaire Fastlane isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about understanding how wealth is really created and making the right moves to get there faster. If this conversation sparks something in you, I highly recommend reading the book yourself. It goes even deeper into these concepts and breaks down exactly how to escape the slow lane. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep learning and moving forward together.
Subscribe for more content.